What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at Bitcoin through the lens of our indicator special, and that is where we look at Bitcoin with a number of these different indicators. Not going to go through all of them, but many of the major ones, and see, do the indicators agree with each other? What are the indicators telling us about current price action as well as potential areas for bottoms and tops? So let's get into it. Let's start off with my favorite indicator, one of them, and that is the fear and greed sentiment, and it is still in neutral. It's been neutral for about the last month, so really nothing's changing here. It's just collating, consolidating, and then we'll see. So far right now, you can see that micro-wise to this neutrality territory, we were challenging for a few months that extreme greed ceiling right there, and we had a series of higher lows and then just ran into a ceiling and came back down. And to me, that makes sense because as far as seasonality goes, August, September, from an almanac perspective, tends to be the most negative months for Bitcoin. Now, it doesn't always have to be, but it usually is. In Q4, especially October, November, tend to be very, very good. So hopefully we see the markets put in their bottom, and then we can resume to the upside and maybe even get some sort of an alt season. And speaking of alt season, I think this is a chart worth saving. Screenshot it, do whatever you need, Google it. There's different variations of it that explain more or less. But right now we are in phase 2. Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. And once we start getting near the end of alt season, at least the last 2 cycles has happened, once Bitcoin tops and is too expensive to keep buying, then we see this massive rotation into altcoins. Now, which altcoins are going to run? Who's to say? The larger caps tend to be lower risk, and if you find one that's a diamond in the rough, congrats, then those can perform very well for you. But that alt season lasts about 2 to 4 weeks, so just keep that in mind. Once the news and friends and family and everywhere seems to be euphoric, probably the time to take profits, the time to be buying any altcoins, maybe now, maybe in the coming month or two, but we may be getting close to that time where it'll be too expensive to keep buying. And one of the reasons I say we could be getting close to that time is we have a phenomenon known as the 4-year cycle. You can see every 4 years Bitcoin puts in a top. Now, even though we had that top here in November 21, you see these other ones, December 2017, November, December 2013, we had alt season back here. Now, there's different conditions, there's monetary policy, quantitative easing, money printing, stimulus checks, all that. We don't have that this time around. Now, if you watch my stock video tomorrow or Friday, you'll hear me talk about the United States Central Bank balance sheet and how QE could be returning soon. So we'll see. But as far as where the cycle top is, who's to say? Is it another 4-year cycle? A lot of people are tending to lean that way. I think when it comes to markets, you need to reserve the rights to be flexible and let the data lead the way. The timing, it is nice, but it is a correlation. And as a good psychologist, a good scientist, correlation does not equal causation. All because we have a pattern of things happening before doesn't mean that pattern has to continue. If I share something I talk about with people in my current job, all because people have hurt you before doesn't mean people are going to keep hurting you. What happens with some of my clients is they get defensive, they get insecure because they've been hurt by people in their family or people they dated, and so they put up this wall and expect it to keep happening, even though that new person never did anything to indicate as such. So again, in the field of science, as far as research goes, correlation doesn't equal causation, but Bitcoin, people get into this patternistic type thinking. I see a lot of technical analysis with this patternistic type thinking that all because a certain amount of time passed before, it has to happen again. People talking about the moon and all other sorts of crazy stuff. So we take, on this channel, we take every piece of data or every indicator as a data point and then come up with a conclusion or a hypothesis. What is probable, what is possible, and things such as that. Now on this channel, I talk about Bitcoin mining stocks. I talk about different altcoins. If I can do a live stream Friday, I'll do my best to. I'll go over some different altcoins if you guys request. But when I do the live streams, I'm more so just looking to have a conversation with y'all where we can talk stocks, crypto, see what's going on in the markets, and we just share our thoughts together. All right, let's get into Bitcoin. We'll do current analysis. I'll jump around. I'll do current analysis, macro analysis, all those sorts of things. One last thing. While we're here at the rainbow chart, you can see right now Bitcoin is on the border about of yellow and green, and if this yellow area holds up, you can see that's kind of right where we are now, or just a little underneath it, close to 107k. That green logarithmic regression band is at around 82k. Log scale, factors of 10, regression, it flattens out over time. All right, let's get into some various indicators. So you can see I'm using a Fibonacci retracement on the micro scale, and this is drawn low to high, and you can see from that June low to the recent all-time high in August, we had a 618 pullback, so it makes sense to be coming back up. Now, there was this area, you see this trend line. I drew this because we had an inverse head and shoulders, broke above that, but I do wonder if that inverse head and shoulder line is going to be resistance. And to be honest, I was expecting more of a move from that inverse head and shoulders. So we'll see what happens with this trend line here. Let's also add on our moving averages. Again, this is just current price action. You can see the fib trying to get to that 382, but look where the candle body is. I have on Heikin-Ashi candles, and the candle body is right underneath that 50-day moving average. Now, it's wicking to there, but this thing's grinding. It is grinding. It got through the 100-day moving average, the 0.5 fib, the 20. If the 50's next and the candle bodies are getting up here, I think overall that's going to be a good sign for Bitcoin. So you can see how this thing's just slowly grinding up, and I think sometimes when that happens, people expect moves to come to the downside. But I think overall, when I've seen stocks, crypto slowly grinding up, that tends to be a good thing more often than not. All right, let's get into a number of the different indicators. First of all, we'll be looking at the weekly and monthly mostly. Sometimes we'll take a look at the daily, but not too often. Right here, we're on the weekly, and as you saw, I use Heikin-Ashi candles, and here I have on buy-sell signal indicator. The 1020 moving average crossover with Heikin-Ashi signals by Shobajek, so shout out to them. You can see how we had a 3-week sell signal play out. Are we going to get a reversal buy signal here? Maybe, but we see this weekly doji between the 0.5 and the 382 on that fib. So something to watch for. Good indicator, one that I like. All right, let's run through some of these. We won't do other moving averages, but let's go down to, we'll just go through some of these. They tend to repeat. This is there's the super guppy indicator, and this one kind of shows where some of the bottoms will be. It'll be around where that 50-week moving average is. We can add that on. See where the 50 and the 100 is, kind of between that. You see where some of the wicks go, but what I think is kind of cool here is how deep those wicks go. And if all of a sudden we see Bitcoin closing under this area, that's where we can start to see it change colors. So last cycle, once it started closing underneath that super guppy area and really coming down, that was a change of the overall macro trend. So you can see Bitcoin was on its way to the bottom when it flipped. So overall, the bottom area of this, the line in the sand, is at about 90k. I do not think we're getting down to 90k. And one of the reasons, by the way, let me show you a macro fib I have drawn here, and this is just from the last cycle high to low. We have our 1618 here at around 102K, and I think the 102K is a very strong area. It was the all-time high, challenging area, and that is now support. So I don't think 102K is coming. Also the 50-week moving average, which is a line in the sand between being bullish, bearish. See how we bounce off that twice. I think that is going to be coming up there. Maybe by the time if we did get as low as 102K, the 50-week moving average would be down there. All right, let's go to some other indicators. We took a look at the guppy. Let's take a look at Bollinger Bands. Now, Bollinger Bands, when they get tight, the big move tends to happen up or down. So we can see this from the bottom of the cycle. Tightens up, big move up. And from the bottom of the Bollinger Band, you see the bands tighten up, big move up. The bands tighten up, big move up. Okay, now recently, we've just kind of been consolidating. And, I think the bands could tighten up a little bit more, if I'm being honest. As far as the short-term time frame, within the next month or so, I do think these bands could get a little tighter before a big move up. And I think, again, that would kind of fall in line with some of our seasonality. I'll go over S&P seasonality or NASDAQ. Sorry, you can see how this is just on average each year. After we get a summer top, we tend to get a few months of chop. So I think that falls in line and with what I'm sort of expecting from the Bollinger Band. So things are coiling, and as they do, a big move becomes more and more likely. Bubble risk indicator, I like this one. This is showing that we are not near any type of bubble right now. I wanted to take a look at this on different time frames. Yeah, monthly, you can see, speaking of log regression, you can see how the bubble risk goes down over time. But in 2021 at the peak, we had the bubble risk indicator at 115. 2017, it was at 169. 2013 is at 320. So this cycle, March of 24 is at 55. So I'd be expecting the bubble risk indicator to get somewhere around that, 60 to 70 range. I'm just throwing a number out there. You don't have to, put your money on that or anything. But that's just something I'm kind of looking for. I don't think that's showing us anything imminent right now. Bull market support band, this is a good indicator. And you can see how Bitcoin tends to bounce off it. Sometimes it gets underneath, and that's good value at that local time. Now, you saw we were at the 50-week moving average here, and that was the bottom, but we are right at the bull market support band, or had a bounce off of it. So are we going to get a retest from this fib or trend line? Maybe, but the bull market support band right there at around 110. We're not too far away from it, so I don't think now is a bad time to look at some altcoins. If any of your altcoins are at good levels, I think bull market support band showing us that we're at decent value, even if we went underneath it. We talked about fear and greed. Let's take a look at Darvis Box. Darvis Box, kind of like Bollinger Bands, it can tighten up. We can move under it and bring the Darvis Box lower. I think this is more of a trader's tool, a trade investor tool. But as far as the Darvis Box currently shows, we did hit the lower end of that, kind of like our bull market support band. And so here's another piece of data. The rainbow chart, we saw Bitcoin getting the lower end of the yellow band. Bollinger Band we saw coming down. We have the 618 fib, the bull market support band, the Darvis Box. I think there's a lot to say that this 107K area could be a potential local bottom. We'll see. We're always a Trump tweet away from some nonsense sending markets down 5%. But black swan tweets notwithstanding, I think there's some data adding up that maybe that 107K area is a good area of support. Don-chain trend ribbon. I do like taking a look at this once in a while. Overall showing us the trend is green. We haven't flipped or reversed on that. And even by the time it does, that's about when that super guppy, if you remember that indicator we looked at earlier, when that's breaking down, I'm curious, is that where this was lining up with where the 100-week moving average was breaking down. Maybe we're on this. Yeah, I think that Don Chain trend ribbon, if you break the 100-week moving average, that lines up with where this thing starts to break down. So if the some of the bigger indicators are showing you as we get under the 50-week that we might be bearish, this one's really confirming it. So yeah, I think if you're waiting for the Don Chain trend to change, as far as staying in the market, you're gonna lose money. But when it does turn red, that's probably a good time to consider taking a look at when you can re-enter, when you get confirmation or when you are forming a base, I should say. All right, we looked at the trend ribbon. There's no double tops or bottoms. Fear and greed, we don't need to take a look at that. Let's do Hull Sweep. Okay, now this one, I'll do the MACD as well. If any of you are new to this channel, the moving average convergence divergence, you probably hear people talk about the MACD a lot. That's what that means, moving average convergence divergence. All right, now this Hull Sweep, buy in silico, you can see here, I want you guys to notice a couple of things. When the price goes under the band, look at what the MACD is doing. Okay, it turns red. When we go above, look what the MACD on the weekly is doing. It turns green. Okay, when the MACD weekly turns green, that's a good thing, and we're above the ribbon. But when we get below the ribbon, the MACD is turning red. So they're both pretty much the same indicators, different ways of looking at it. Now, right now, the MACD is red, and wouldn't you know it, we've gone underneath it just a little bit. What's also curious to me, this would be a bit of a bearish perspective right here, is that you see how the candle came right up to the ribbon. So it didn't bounce off of it as it did back in June. We got underneath it, and now it's testing it as resistance. Now it could come back up. This could be short-lived. We saw that only once before this cycle where we came underneath it, tested it, and then broke through. But then we came under again. Yeah, that was the true bottom. And then we broke through. So maybe we're going to get something like we had in June to October. Funny enough, the timing of this, kind of similar. A little bit different because September was over here. But wouldn't that be something if we saw a similar move like that break out or play out where we break above, go back under, and then boom, we're off to the races by November. That would kind of line up timing-wise too. So right now, I'm looking for confirmation on the MACD. I'm looking for this to start moving up a little bit and to show that the downward trend has stopped. That's what I'm looking for. But for me, this, like the MACD, does have me a little bit cautious as far as the near term. I want to see more confirmation. One of you sent in, you emailed me, and by the way, my email is my title, Market Psychology 101 at Gmail, so feel free to email me. One of you emailed me this Ichimoku indicator, and I'll be honest, I'm still learning about it. There seems to be some leading and lagging indicators. I watched a video on it, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. But then as I've gone back to it, and even right now, I'm like, wait, what were they saying in that video? And that's just going to, and I'm fine saying I don't know enough to share it with you guys. But here's my point. And I'm just going to maybe talk for 30 seconds to a minute here. Like I'm doing in this video, I'm showing you a number of indicators, but I do think we run a danger of getting too into the weeds with this stuff. The indicators I mainly use are fibs and moving averages. Sometimes I sprinkle in buy sell signal, or I look at what the MACD or an RSI indicator is doing for confirmation, but I keep it pretty simple. I'm more of a medium to longer term or very long term investor, trade investor. That's me. Okay, we're all different in our investment approach, but I think you can get too much in the weeds looking at all this stuff. Now, if you like this Ichimoku indicator and it is your baby, you understand it, you know it, great. I think you can use indicators to benefit you quite a bit or gain an advantage. I have nothing against it, but I think you understand when I'm saying that if you are using too many indicators and taking a look at too many things, kind of like what I'm doing in this video, you can confuse yourself. So we're just, again, every single indicator to me is just a data point, and by the end, I just share my conclusion of how I'm interpreting this stuff. So Ichimoku indicator, it's cool, but I don't think it's necessarily for me. I do find it interesting, by the way, where some of these moving averages, if you will, some of the lines where they're at, and maybe this red one around 99K would be a local bottom area, and here would be part of Ichimoku, an area you wouldn't want to break through. Otherwise, you turn bearish. You can see right there. Yeah, if you start getting into that, breaking down, then it's bearish. So again, if this looks too confusing to you, I'm still learning about it. We're all learning together, and I do not claim to be an expert on these indicators. What I could do in the future is just maybe talk about one indicator at a time and really go hard into it. Anyways, this one, the Larson line, and right there you see it lines up with where the 50-week moving average is. I'm curious where it's a little under the 20. Maybe it's like the 25 and the 50, or the 25 and the 55 if I had to guess. Could be wrong. But it sort of gives you this range that where the deepest lows could fall in. So I do wonder, are we going to reach the Larson line? Now, I've been looking at possibly 102K where that 1618 fib is to 104K as a possibility. And I think that's still, where would 104K be as far as fibs here around? I think there's a moving average, and that's why I said 104K. That's where the 200-day moving average is. So I do find that interesting that the Larson line is right around that 200-day moving average and that 1618 fib. So maybe if we touch in that area, for me, that's a can't miss area. But yeah, knowing we've touched this Larson line a couple times on the way up, are we going to hit it again? It kind of leaned that way. But again, I wonder if we're going to do something like here, all right? And, you know, this is a point you hear me externally processing that maybe I'm complicating things too much for myself. Let's move on. Let's go to the logarithmic weekly. And you can see here how the last couple cycle tops, not 2013, just touched it. Yeah, it's interesting as you go further back. But you can see how the last two cycles, it got about halfway to 3/4 of the way up. And where is that right now? Halfway to 3/4 of the way up? Well, that's between, let me zoom out and show you, the 2618 and 3618 macro fib. Again, that's the fib from the high to low. You have to take your fib off log scales. You're looking for those price targets. So that's between 155 and the low 200Ks. We talk about how this lines up with the rainbow chart. Let's just go to December of this year. Where's 155 to 200K? That's right in those orange bands, right around here, okay? And what's curious about that is you see how these tops get a little lower, and the orange band, the dark orange band, touching right in there, is where I'm looking for potential tops for Bitcoin. And that lines up with the log regression here as well. Why wouldn't it? You know, the rainbow chart's also a logarithmic regression, but this one, it's been pretty good the last couple cycles. Our fibs line up too. I look at that as a potential top for Bitcoin where we could then see alt season. Again, where Bitcoin tops, it's too expensive to keep buying, and then the next few weeks you get that massive rotation into many altcoins. Yours if you are lucky. All right, we went log regression. We talked about MACD. Let's talk about Pi cycle high-low. Just like our log regression, look where that Pi cycle upper moving average is right now. It's just underneath that 3618, and currently it is at 193K. Now, as this moves up, this is going to move up with it, so we'd have to see a big set of vertical moves, and even then, we might get above the 3618 at 210, maybe even get towards 225K, 250K. I don't know if that'll happen. I'm more so looking at this range right in here, but the pi cycle top there at around 200K. Would that not be interesting if Bitcoin got that bullish? In one of my videos on Monday, I talked about where a top might be and or when it might be, and I was wondering if Bitcoin could top Q1 next year. And there's a lot of 4-year cyclists, and hey, if 4-year cycle happens again, that's fine if it happens November, December. But I think if we were to hit this area of the pi cycle top, even just run into it, in my opinion, we would need some time to get there. Okay, now, right now you see how we're at the yellow band, and let's just measure out from the last time we went from the yellow to the orange band. How long did that take? We'll take the shortest route possible. That was 42 days, 76% move, all right? So if we went 42 days from right now, it'd be around a 72% move, maybe a little bit more. Let's do 42. There we go. That'd just be from right now, top in October. Okay, so it can happen. Right? Will that happen? If it does, things are going to be euphoric. I can tell you that. Seems crazy, but having been through 2017, 21, hey, maybe it's not as unrealistic. Even my hesitation, that might be telling me, that, hey, I'm thinking like a retail person now. I am retail, but all because it's unbelievable doesn't mean it can't happen. That's when the markets catch you off guard, and you got to watch out for that euphoria. All right, so pi cycle indicator, we see how that can move from the lower to the upper end in just 42 days. Let's go to RSI. Why not? We'll go to our RSI right here, and let's move to, before we move to the monthly, I do think we have to note this, how this is something I'm watching for. This will be known as bearish divergence. You have these series of lower highs in the strength, and look where the price is, okay? The price is getting higher, but the strength is getting lower. Bearish divergence, that can eventually play out to a big move down. So are we going to run into this again? Are we going to make it into support? What is going to happen? Now, if we go to the monthly indicator, let's change this up here, and we'll draw this out. Now, here's bearish divergence as well, but we'll just go from those two peaks. Okay, you see where the RSI peaks out. Are we going to break that and then get somewhere around this 86 level, and that's where the Bitcoin peak is, somewhere around 200K, just like I talked about with all those other factors. So I do think that's something worth considering, this monthly RSI trend line, and just where that could go. All right, we're done with the RSI. We'll take a look at some different RSIs today. 28 minutes, I guess. Speed things up. Let's go to the reverse Cutler's RSI. You can see this one, that when we get in this overbought or oversold area, that's when we're on our way to a local top, or at or near a local top or bottom, right? So right now it's just hanging out in the middle. Has room to run up or down. It's right there in the middle. Let's go to, we're just going to start flying through these. I got talking a little bit too long here. Let's do stochastic RSI, super trend. That's a good one to look at. Now, every time the blue crosses under the orange here, you got to watch out. We're overbought. The blue does look like it's challenging the orange. Now, is it just going to continue further up? On the weekly, I do think it's promising that we have room to move up. I like taking a look at the monthly time frame as well. Oh, we were in the monthly. Sorry. Let's take a look at the weekly. I got myself mixed up. The weekly shows that we are bottom, but usually there's a bottoming process where we could go a little bit lower. So I might wait for the weekly to play out just to see if we go. You can see when we were in a similar state right here, how the next coming weeks, that's when we were truly putting in a bottom. So is that going to happen? Again, on the monthly, The monthly, I think, could show that we might turn down before going up, but we'll see. We had a similar move last cycle, kind of, after a bottom, came down halfway and then changed trend. So I'd be taking a look. It's funny to me how sometimes in the middle of a bull trend, we'll kind of retest that 50 area on the stochastic RSI. Let's go to the weekly so I don't confuse myself again. All right, let's go to super trend. This is another one of those lines in the sand. You do not want to cross underneath it. Otherwise, you can get that sell signal and things will flip over. And right now, that super trend is at around 92K. In that, where is that super trend area? It's a little bit under the 50-week moving average right now. But if we were getting to the 100-week, yeah, then I'd be concerned. But right now, not worried about the super trend at all. But that would be an area to watch, like after the Bitcoin top, after alt season. And of course, I'll be doing videos then. This is a buy-sell signal. No, it's not. What was the buy-sell signal one? UT bottle alerts. Got ahead of myself. All right. So this is more of a confirmation sell signal indicator, and it is concerning to me we just got this. All right. Now, we talked about how the Hull sweep band is now resistance. This trend line is now resistance. The 382 is all this showing us that there's some potential bearishness down to 102 to 104. That does have me concerned. All right. So that is UT bottle alerts, more of a confirmation buy sell signal indicator. Now, those indicators, they can flip around quick. No indicator has a 100% win rate, but I would be cautious with that popping up. Let's take a look at Ultimate RSI, probably my favorite RSI indicator here. Ultimate RSI also showing that bearish divergence. Let's take a look at the monthly. And this is one, more than the regular RSI. This is one where I'm really watching like a hawk. And we are getting close to that 94, 95 area of where we could see a potential top with the Ultimate RSI. I do like taking a look at Bitcoin dominance through the lens of all these RSIs and seeing, are we getting oversold? You can see how that happened last cycle, oversold on dominance, because this shows us when we're getting alt season. And so, maybe this is the first test before we double bottom down there. Won't go on a Bitcoin dominance tangent. Anything else? I think that's it. Let's just leave it there. So as far as conclusions today, here's my conclusion, and I think it's the conclusion of the market literally this week. I'm undecided. We have the bull market support band showing us a bottom, and I think just from what the data is showing us, that bottom could be a local bottom, that within the next week or so, maybe we see Bitcoin rally a little bit, get up to 114K. I think the daily showing us what the charts are showing us, that if Bitcoin starts to get above and stay above 114K, then that's reason to be optimistic. But if we see Bitcoin, again, I'm looking at candle bodies on the daily. If we start getting below 110K, I'm feeling more pessimistic. So I think short term, there's some promising things going on. Chart shows us that. Medium term, I'm a little bit more cautious as far as maybe the next 3 to 6 weeks. I'm a little bit more cautious. I do wonder if we're going to see a bottom sometime later this month, early October, and that'll be one of our possibly last buying opportunities before we start to see Bitcoin rip, if we do see a 4-year cycle, as some of you are calling for. So that's my assessment. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if there's other indicators you like, let me know. Or how about this? If you would like, please comment below. What are your top 3 indicators? When you go on TradingView, what are your top 2 or 3 indicators that you like to use? For me, it would be Fibonacci, moving averages, and the MACD probably would be my answer. But, let me know what some of yours are. And again, kind of what I was saying before, I think keeping it simple sometimes is good to do too. Now, today's video, we do this once in a while sort of as a thought experiment, just something to chew on. And if you came away with a different conclusion than me, that's fine. You can let me know. But I do think this is an important thought experiment to do once in a while, just to see where's the indicator data agreeing, disagreeing. And I think micro term, is a little different than what it's showing medium term as well. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Take care.